Grand. Okay. So, Star Citizen crafting stuff. There was, I don't know, so I just started watching Captain's Table, latest Captain Table thing. It's kind of funny. Okay, so, like, I guess there's some question, somebody asked of, like, why why would a military manufacturer be okay with somebody making ships for them, or making their ships? And, well, it's an interesting thing, I think, that I just want to say, because it's a thing, was like, why does Armalite let people make the AR-15, was the comeback, and that is, that's not how that works. And I'm sorry, by that's not how that works, I mean, what happened in that particular example is that Armalite sold the rights to, like, the AR-15 to Colt. Colt, and I can't remember exactly how it went, if the AR-15, like, passed military trials and Armalite was like, we don't have the production facilities to make this. I think they sold the rights because they were having trouble selling it. Colt I believe Colt, like, bought the rights, or the rights were sold to Colt. Colt took them to military trials, and they passed there, and then Colt made the M16. I believe that's the case, I could be wrong. But basically, Armalite sold the rights to Colt. Colt made their version of the AR-15, and then eventually the patents ran out, and then because the AR-15 was a very popular rifle and there was a market for it, people, when the patents ran out and there was no reason people couldn't make it, people started making it. And that isn't, there is more complexity to that. I mean, like, there is more complexity to that. This is an interesting thing. Very interesting. For instance, okay, so from a manufacturing standpoint, if I went to Aegis Dynamics and said, hey, and I'm not an economist, I'm not a factory owner, I'm not a mechanical engineer, a parts engineer, a sort of, like, market engineer, or marketing person, but, if I was to go to Aegis Dynamics and be like, hey, I want to manufacture the Aegis Gladius, if I was just some random dude who walked up to Aegis and was like, they would say no. They would laugh in my face and tell me to get the fuck out, or throw me out the window. But, you know, I mean, for instance, if I did mercenary work, like, if I was a partner with Aegis, I mean, like, that's definitely not going to be the best way to be like, hey, I haven't done any manufacturing stuff, I've just been a bodyguard or a gun for hire for you. I'd like to manufacture ships now. I mean, that, theoretically, that probably shouldn't be that there are definitely situations like that, you know, could work out like that in real life, but probably in game, I wouldn't be surprised if it worked out like that, if it could work out like that, but you definitely want to have manufacturing. So, but yeah, if I was to go to, but let's say I was to go to Aegis, be like, I want to make the Gladius, and I had a manufacturing facility, and let's say I had a manufacturing facility in Fora, it's like, hey, presumably Aegis doesn't have a manufacturing facility in Vega. In order to sell the stuff, sell their products in anywhere, they need to get them there. So they can either produce them in Fora, or they can have their products shipped out to Fora. And from their perspective, having somebody, like, hey, I want to produce your things. I will pay you to license production of this product of yours, and then I will sell your product here. You know, as long as like they meet a certain quality bar and they are a reputable and they prove themselves to be a reputable person, like, yeah, no, there's, and especially if there was a licensing fee, if there was a royalties fee on top of that, like, abso-fucking-lutely, that is no doubt that any company, any and every company, would take that deal. I think I might have already gotten, yeah. What else? What else? So there are other complexities. So why is the AR-15 so, like, mass manufactured versus other guns? I mean, there's other products, other cars, right? There are several things, right? Why are K cars not manufactured in the U.S.? There's a lot of people in the U.S. who really like K cars, as of late, and because these K cars would not pass. They can be imported into the US, but if they were manufactured new, they would have to pass safety standards, and they frankly just would not pass those safety standards. And I mean, that's kind of a that is kind of a, you know, take it for what you will, but like, there's a reason that K cars exist, and well, also there have been some points of like comparing, there are, you know, some states that have banned them. It's like, well, okay, this thing is safe, but this safe car is totally not as safe as a K car, or it's not as modern as a K car, and has a lot of things that are just as dangerous or whatever. But I digress. But yeah, like, there is. But yeah, that's part of it. And even then, let's say Honda Super Cub. Honda Super Cub, the most produced motor vehicle in the fucking world. And it sells like hotcakes all across the globe, except the US, where it sells like hot shit. Like, and that's just because the market, the sort of motorcycle market. I mean, frankly, I could be wrong as an armchair motorcyclist. I hate that term. I love that term because it's like it's funny, but it's just like, I wish I wasn't. But you know, like, that's just not what the market is. I mean, like, the market isn't Harley Davidson, but people in the US are not primarily getting into a motorcycle, because they're super practical, super economical. They get into it because they want the experience, and like, a Super Cub is it's not bad, but it is not what people want, right? Now, there are people who want the Super Cub, and well, I would say myself included. I don't really, but like, I don't know, it's cool. If I like, it wouldn't be my first choice, but like, just to say I have a Super Cub would be hell yeah. Yeah, there are also other things, right? Go back to guns because it's thing. So like, all right, so if the patents are up on a lot of firearms, the Luger. Why does nobody make the Luger? Well, the Luger was made in a different time. With different technology, with different with a different economy, with just a lot of different factors. Like nowadays, and I don't know how true of an example this is, but to give a sort of example, it's like, it would be beneficial to cut down on parts, right? But if you could have one spring to do 2 functions, that would be great. But nowadays, if you had the option between manufacturing your own one custom spring or just buying 2 off the rack springs from somebody else, 2 different springs to do the same thing, but they're pre-made and you can buy them. Like, buying the 2 pre-made springs would be easier. And if you can put that in your design, then that is more sensible of a thing to do. And I don't know 100% how true necessarily that is, but like, that's the sort of thing, right? Not to mention that, like, well, I mean, like, who would want, I mean, if you're, say, somebody who's looking for a firearm for self-defense, then, like, a Luger versus a Glock 17, for various reasons, the Glock 17 wins. Now, if you're buying a gun just for the cool factor, or if because you want a collection, or you want a collectible firearm, well, okay, if you buying it just on cool factor, then that's your market. There's not that many people. If you're looking for like historical accuracy, then yeah, that's a tough one. Because like if you're making a reproduction, well, then you're not an original. Then it's not an original. And the value that a reproduction would have is going to be, based on how accurate it is to the original. Like, if you made a perfect copy, obviously not, like, trying to rip somebody off and selling them an original when it isn't an original, because that's just a fucking dick move. But, like, if I could get a copy of whatever gun, of gun X, like, and it's cheaper than buying the original, but it is, like, in every way, shape, and form, like, identical to the original, yeah, then I would buy one. 'Cause, yeah, I'd be like, yeah, if I'm looking at it for historical value, then, yeah, no, that does have some value. Maybe it isn't as valuable, in some people's mind just because it's a reproduction, but that's also a thing. Now, there are a lot of other factors that could play into things, right? So for Star Citizen, having old ship designs, and I really I've mentioned this before, having old ship designs, let's say old ship designs that have their components, like this thing was manufactured 200 years ago, the components were larger, they were less powerful. Maybe, like, in converting it, you have, like, some sort of spacer or some sort of efficiency, some sort of thing that if you use a new component in this old ship, there is some, like, added efficiency that you can get, or something. And maybe, like, just because this thing failed for a lot of other reasons besides the qualities of what it is, maybe there's a weapon that has this special characteristic, and, like, it's not in production anymore because nobody wants to produce it, but it's got this thing, it shoots super duper lasers. And those super duper lasers at least would be very helpful for you or this particular situation, but you gotta go get it. And yeah, like, there would be a market for that. Anyways, crafting is a thing, and manufacturing is an interesting beast. Until next time, have a good day. Great day even. Chowskis.